everyone, today I'm going to be talking about using a dress zipper or a pre-made zipper in your bags. In most of my videos, I like to use zipper by the yard, but I know not everybody likes to use zipper by the yard, has access to zipper by the yard, or is confident putting on their pulls. So I'm going to show you today how to resize a dress zipper to use in your bags. So let's get going. Using a dress zipper in place of zipper by the yard is not really that different when it comes to bag making. The biggest difference when it comes to using a dress zipper or a pre-made zipper compared to zipper by the yard in your bags is that when you open up a dress zipper, you are going to have the two ends separated, compared to zipper by the yard, where once you slide your pull on, the teeth are closed at either end. And oftentimes when you are sewing up your bag, the teeth being closed at either end is helpful when you are installing your zipper. So I'm going to show you how to use these zippers instead of these ones. I'm going to demonstrate using these dress zippers for 3 different types of zippers. I'm going to show you how to use it and resize it for a zipper that has double fold tabs at either end. I'm going to show you how to get the correct size of zipper for a zipper that has a turned end and a tab at the other end. And I'm also going to show you how to resize it when you want tabs on either end of your zipper. For the versions that have tabs at either end, be that the one at the front of the bag or the top of the bag, an important step is basting closed the open end of your zipper. If you look at your dress zipper, you will see that there are metal stoppers at the top, zipper top stops. You're going to want to baste your zipper closed at around the level of those stoppers. I take a regular hand needle and thread. I'm using a darker color to show you. And then you're just going to put a couple of stitches around the top of the zipper there just to hold it closed. It's a little messy, but this is just a basting stitch that will be hidden inside. And I am sewing below where those zipper top stops are. We're just putting a couple of loops in there, and that's just to hold the end of the zipper together and to also stop you pulling off that zipper pull when we are making our zipper. I then like to remove the zipper tops with my pliers. Just going to make sure that that is all lined up, and then I will grab my pliers and just pull those off. You can take the tops off before you baste. The reason that I didn't do that is because the zipper top stops are what is keeping the zipper pull on, and I don't want to risk accidentally pulling that zipper pull off, especially if the reason that somebody is doing this method is because they struggle with getting on the zipper pulls. I like to get it off by just giving it a little squeeze first, and then that usually gives me part of the teeth in the zipper stop at the front there, and I can just lift that up and pull that out. If you know that your zipper is going to be sufficiently long for your project, you can also choose to just clip or even staple the end of your zipper together and place your basting stitches further away from your zipper top stops and then just snip those off. You just want to make sure that you're keeping your zipper nicely lined up so that you don't have any bulges at the end when you cut it down to size. So that is basted closed so that my zipper is not going to come off that end. And now I'm ready to get the correct size and put my tabs on. First, I'm going to show you this method where you want the zipper to go the full length of the front panel of your bag. My zipper tabs are cut to 1.5 inches squared, and I'm going to put a tab at either end. I'm going to start first with the open end. I'm going to slide my zipper out of the way, and I'm going to trim my zipper tape to just beyond where my basting stitches are, making sure that I'm not cutting through my stitches. And then you essentially proceed the same as you would with your zipper by the yard. You're going to take your zipper tab, you're going to place one right sides down on your zipper teeth and the other right sides up. Place a clip. And then we are going to sew this end here. And we want to make sure that we are sewing on the outside of where that basting stitch line is. So you can see that stitch line is here. It's at about 1/4 inch. So I'm going to sew that tab on at 3/8 of an inch. And I'm doing this before I'm cutting my zipper length. And that is to make sure that I have taken a sufficient seam allowance to disguise that basting stitch. So I'm going to sew straight down here at 3/8 of an inch. You also want to make sure when you're sewing that you're pinching together the zipper tape so that the open end where the basting stitch is as neatly lined up and as closely aligned as you can get it. Once that first tab is on, we can cut the length of the zipper to get the correct size for our pattern. So for this pattern, I need a zipper that is 9 inches long. So I'm going to take a look at my tape. I've got 1 inch of tab on this side, and I'm going to want 1 inch of tab on the other side. So I've got 9 inches, which means that I want my other seam to be around here. And that's going to give me equal fabric on either side and the correct length of zipper teeth. So I'm going to take my other 2 tabs. I'm going to remove the stop at the other end. Again, I just squeeze it to help it bulge up and give me something to grip. And then just pull out the teeth, working one side at a time. So once I have the first tab on and I've removed the stop on the other end, I need to work out what my final zipper length will be. For this particular pattern, I want my zipper to sit across the front of my pouch. I want my tab on the open end to start at the edge of the pattern, and then I want to have a tab on the other end that will extend to the end of the pattern. What I'm going to do to help me figure out exactly where to cut it is mark my seam allowance on this tab the same as we used on the other end. Another option is to just cut your tabs a lot larger so that you can trim it down to be the same size and keep them symmetrical. I'm going to mark my 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on the back here. And I have 1 inch here folded over. So if I want to have 1 inch hanging over this side, I'm going to want to place that tab right around here. And then once that is folded over, that is going to line up just about perfectly. So now I can mark where I want to trim this end of the zipper. I'm not going to cut it yet. I'm going to wait until I've sewn it to make sure that it is correct before I cut it. But this gives me an idea of exactly where I'm going to be sewing. So making sure your zipper pull is still on, we're going to line up the tab with the line that we just made, and we're going to sandwich the other tab at the end so that they both are coming up to that mark, and then I'm going to sew along this line. So we'll take that over to the sewing machine and sew straight down there. I've sewn that second tab on, and now I'm going to fold it out, and I'm going to make sure that this zipper length is correct. And as you can see, it's just about right. It reaches to either end, and then I'm just going to check that my tab size is the same, which it is. And now I can trim the excess here underneath the tab, and I will top stitch at either end of those tabs and then install that the same way as I showed you in the video for the front zipper on your pouch. And then you have the zipper that is the exact size to reach from one end of your pattern to the other end. Now I'm going to show you using tabs on either end where there is a gap. When I'm installing a top zipper with tabs on either end, I like to cut my zipper tape so that it is at least 1.5 inches narrower than the topmost width of my bag. So for this bag, where it is 8 inches across the top, I'm going to want my zipper to be cut to 6.5 inches, and then I will put the tabs on either end. Because we will have the little gap here, it doesn't need to be as exact as the method we used for this one, because a little bit of extra gap at the end is not going to cause any problems. Whereas with this style, if your zipper is too short, then you may end up with a hole in the front of your bag. I've already removed the zipper stops on this zipper and basted that in place. And now I'm going to take 2 tabs, and I'm going to do the usual double fold method, where you fold the tab in half, place a crease. And do the same again to create a double fold tab, and I'm going to make 2 of those. I'm going to take my first tab and I'm going to make sure that when I fold that around, my basting stitches are hidden underneath and they're just kind of close. So I'm going to trim that a little more, being careful not to cut into any of those stitches. And then I'm going to wrap this around the end of the zipper so that the raw end meets up with the fold. And you can also use a lighter just to cinch the end of that so that it doesn't fray. And fold that over, enclosing the open end. Now we said that we wanted it to be 1.5 inches shorter, so I'm just going to use my cutting mat and place this end down and then measure along, and I'm going to account for the little bit of bulk there, so I'm just going to slide it ever so slightly beyond the 3/4 inch mark on this end, and the edge of my tape lines up with that mark on my mat. Also making sure that the zipper tape is straight so that you're getting an accurate measurement. And then you're going to measure 3/4 inch from the other end also. Make a mark there. And then I'm just going to cut that straight off, and we're going to put the tab on this end the same way as we would with Zipper by the Yard. Fold that over here. Put my clips on. And then I'm going to go and sew along this edge, and the same way as we did with the orange zipper tape, making sure that the open edge is staying as closely opposed as we can manage as we sew along next to it. So you can see those tabs are sewn in place there. You can go ahead and just trim the excess, and then you would just install that at the top of your zipper pouch, and you can mark the centers of your zipper and the center of your exterior fabric to make sure that you're getting it properly lined up when you sew it on to your bag. The last way that I'm going to show you is when you have a tab at one end and your zipper has a 90-degree fold at the other end. There are 2 common ways to do this type of zipper installation. One is the butler method, which is when you turn the zipper as you are sewing your pouch, and the other is when you do the 90-degree turn before you sew your zipper in place. If you are using a dress zipper, I think that the butler method is probably going to be the easier way to do it. If you do the butler method, then all you're going to need to do is take your zipper that is long enough, have your tab with the double fold like we did with the green and white zipper tape, go to your zipper, make sure that it is at least as long as the top of your bag. You're going to pull the stop off. There's no need to do any basting with your zipper using either of the 90-degree turn or the butler method. You're going to snip the end here. Then you would place your tab on, clip it in place, sew along here, and then you would proceed with the butler method the way that it is demonstrated in Amy Lynn's video. I have a modified version that I demonstrate in my Perfect Corners, Perfect Curves video. So that would be sewn. You would use your double-sided tape, and then you would stick it down, and when you got up to your corner, you would turn it and then continue sewing along. So that's a pretty easy way to do it with a dress zipper or a pre-made zipper, and you don't have to worry too much about adjusting the length because you get the perfect length every time following Amy's methods. If you're going to do it the other way, when you put the turn in first, we're just going to do it a little differently. So take that tab off, and the first thing to do is going to be to make your turns the same way as I have shown you when using Zipper by the Yard. I'm going to just snip that straight off. No need to baste, no need to worry about pulling this out, but of course making sure that you're using a zipper that is long enough. So you want to have your zipper the same size as your pouch width as a good starting point. We're then going to fold over the tops 90 degrees. The way that I like to do that is just to fold it straight in half, like so, and then take the outside edge of that zipper tape and make a 90-degree turn. You can then sew that in place. You can use a lighter to melt it to keep that 90-degree turn that stops that zipper pull from coming off the end. And then you just match the bend on the other side by pinching it down, folding it up, around again. Place a clip there, and then you just secure that bend, as I said, using a lighter or putting some hand stitches in there. Once you've got those turns secured, we are going to measure the correct length for our zipper. And again, we want it to be 1.5 inches shorter than the top width of our bag. So I said this is 8 inches. It's actually a tiny bit shy of 8 inches. So we're going to do 6.5 inches from where my zipper teeth are turned. Just put a snip there. Cinch the ends. Take my tab that we folded earlier, place it over the raw end, and then I'm just going to go and sew that tab on. Once you've sewn the tab on, trim your threads and trim the tab down if you wish at the sides, and then that is now ready to install on your zipper pouch using clips or double-sided tape, whatever your preferred method is to get that sewn in place. And that is a shortened pre-made zipper that is now the correct length for the pattern that we're using. So that is just 3 different ways that you can use these dress zippers in your bags and how you would shorten them. So the important things are, make sure you take these stops out if you are going to be sewing right where the stops are, or snip them off. Check your length to make sure that it is adequate for the project that you're using, and be careful not to accidentally pull off your zipper pull as you're working. Hope that helps. Thanks, everyone.